Amid growing questions about President Biden's candidacy, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries will relay his caucus's concerns to the president directly. Four sources confirming that to NBC News. Despite this, Jeffries is still publicly downplaying the turmoil within the party. But that is not stopping some Democrats from talking to reporters. Take a listen to some of their conflicting messages.
Now, as we look forward, I just want the best person to be front and center to take us into the next administration, into the 119th Congress, so that we can get more done.
And do you believe, final question, that person is President Biden?
Well, I think it remains to be seen. We'll have to wait and see. And I think that we'll know that here soon.
We have to protect the White House. We have to win back the House majority. Make Hakeem Jeffries the next speaker, protect the Senate, and deliver for the American people.
And do you think, considering the high stakes of this election, do you think that Joe Biden is the best person to be at the top of the
President Joe Biden is the nominee.
I think everyone has concerns, and I think, we've raised those, but I just don't think we need to play them out publicly. I do think that there are concerns. I don't think you can get around that, and I don't think that they're just of a small elite few. I think that they're significant concerns from people across the country.
Joining us now, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale. Ali, good morning. Long day on the Hill yesterday, another long one ahead today.
Yeah.
We had a few more Democratic lawmakers come out yesterday, including our first senator, to say that President Biden should not be atop the ticket. A lot of eyes will be on Biden's news conference today, slated at 5:30 p.m. There are many hours between now and then.
Yeah.
What are we expecting from the Hill?
A lot of hours between now and then, and it's a flyout day. So for members who might be mulling, is today the day that I come forward? It's a question of, do they do it while they're here in town? Do they do it when they're back home in their districts? Because, next week, it's not only a Republican National Convention, members are home. No one's in Congress. It's a recess week. It should be a week and a moment for contrast, and instead it could be a moment of continued turmoil for Democrats. I think the striking thing, and you and I were talking about this, is the fact that on Tuesday, after everyone met on the Democratic side, House members huddled with House members, Senate during their lunch, it did sort of feel like, okay, Michael Bennett's going to come out. We're going to see Mikey Sherrill come out. But by and large, this feels like it's dissipating. And then on Wednesday, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi came on Morning Joe. And that really was a moment where people know that she was deliberate. I have one lawmaker who told me there's nothing that she does by accident. And certainly she's someone that the caucus listens to, despite the fact that she's no longer in an official leadership capacity. She is very much a thought leader in this party. And many members have said to me, as I'm sure they've said to you, they think she is one of a select group of people who could potentially talk to the president, or at least signal to him in some kind of subtle or not so subtle way that they want him to reconsider the decision that he has, as you rightly point out, already made, that he's staying in the race. We could end up seeing more members, now that NATO is ending, start coming out today. At the same time, the longer this drags out, and this is the question I was asking lawmakers yesterday, how much longer can you do this before you've just utterly kneecapped the nominee, especially if it remains Joe Biden?
Right. And we just had that sound from Congresswoman Jayapal saying, look, these are legitimate conversations, but we should keep them behind closed doors. That's not what's happened. This is very much spilled out into the public. And at this point, there's polling that suggests it's the talk about Biden, the talk about the debate, that's more damaging to the president than the debate was itself.
And that's not shocking, right? Especially because so much of this coverage, and I've thought a lot about the way that we've been covering this, it's because the public doesn't necessarily match what's privately happening and the conversations that we're having that are not yet reportable, right? There is so much panic and people don't want to put their names on it yet. And yes, as it drags on longer, maybe some of them will. But when you have that level of freak out within elected ranks and it doesn't translate publicly, sometimes it might feel like we're making it bigger than it is, but no. It is the only thing that people on the Hill are talking about, whether you want to blame the press for it, as one senator did with me yesterday, or not. This is not us. This is the party actively grappling with that.
And a truism in this race is whatever candidate's dominating the news is losing.
Yeah.
And I think Democrats, and Biden's senior advisor told me yesterday, they're desperate to turn the page, in part because next week the focus will finally be on Trump again. He's going to announce his VP pick. It's the convention, a chance where Democrats feel like, well, Trump maybe could damage himself. So does that mean that this has to come to a conclusion by this weekend or no?
It should. I mean, if you want that contrast to be as stark as I know that Democrats want it to be, but that's not necessarily what's going to happen, especially if you start getting members who, after the NATO press conference today, decide they want to come forward on Friday, maybe on Saturday, maybe on Sunday. Look, the Republican National Convention, and this is also a fear that I have heard from some Democratic electeds, this idea that they want Trump to be out there talking about taking credit for stripping abortion protections and abortion access from women across the country. They want him talking about that. They want the conversation on Project 2025. They want the conversation around whoever his running mate is, because they have done a lot of work to try to show that these options are, in the Democrats' words, extreme. People like J.D. Vance, people like others, and they might not get the chance to do that.
So we're still waiting to hear more publicly from Senate Majority Leader Schumer.
Yeah.
You mentioned Pelosi as someone the president will listen to. Schumer falls into that category as well. What's the latest as to where he is right now?
Well, look, there was reporting last night that ultimately Schumer came out on the record and rebuffed, saying that he was trying to leave no daylight between him and his support of President Joe Biden. He has been, we'll say, tight-lipped in terms of how verbose he has been in talking about his support of Biden with us. But we know that Senate Democrats are going to have a special lunch today. They're going to be meeting at the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee office with top members of the Biden campaign apparatus, get walked through some polls, get walked through some data. All of it, again, meant to be part of the reassuring process. We are now squarely in week 2 of this, though. And there are senators who say they wish all of this had happened sooner. There are senators who badly want to be reassured. I think that's the thing here, is everyone wants to be reassured. They'd like to come down on the point where they can say President Biden's the nominee. We're just not there yet.
Significant day. That lunch you just mentioned with senators and top Biden advisors, NATO, and then that 5:30 p.m. news conference. NBC News correspondent Ali Vitale, thank you so much.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.